Huawei is very dangerous.
Rarely does a country go to war with a private company.
We have met the enemy, and it is Huawei.
We're not going to do business with Huawei.
Huawei represents a national security risk.
But is this really about Huawei, or is it something bigger than that?
1 billion devices. That's how many screens now light up, not with Android or iOS, but something born entirely in the shadow of isolation, forged in fire, sharpened by necessity, and now threatening to rewrite the future of global technology. This is not a comeback story, it's a resurrection. In 2019, a geopolitical earthquake shook the tech world. The United States blacklisted Huawei, the crown jewel of China's tech industry, cutting it off from Google, chips, suppliers, everything. Analysts called it a death sentence. No more Android, no more Play Store, no more YouTube or Gmail. And just like that, one of the biggest smartphone makers in the world was exiled from the Western digital ecosystem. The message was clear. Without American tech, there is no future. But in the silence that followed, Huawei didn't panic. It rebuilt. And what emerged wasn't a patchwork of borrowed code or cheap imitations. It was an entirely new digital architecture. Its name, HarmonyOS. Fast forward to 2025, and HarmonyOS isn't just alive, it's exploding. Over 900 million devices now run it. Phones, laptops, TVs, tablets, smartwatches, even cars. And the world is starting to realize this isn't just Huawei's plan B. It might be the blueprint for something much bigger. Imagine waking up tomorrow and your phone no longer has Gmail, Maps, or YouTube. That sounds like a nightmare for most users in the West. But for hundreds of millions across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, that's the new normal. And they're not just adjusting, they're choosing it. Huawei's journey from banishment to dominance defies everything Silicon Valley thought it knew. After being cut off, most assumed the company would spiral into irrelevance. Instead, it used the silence to rethink everything. What if mobile technology didn't revolve around Google? What if cross-device experiences weren't gated by walled gardens? What if an operating system could treat every screen, from a phone to a fridge, as one fluid ecosystem? That vision became HarmonyOS. Unlike Android, Harmony wasn't built for phones alone. It was engineered to treat all smart devices as equals, part of a seamless network where your tablet could become your desktop monitor, your watch could control your smart TV, and your phone could transform into your laptop's touchpad instantly, without setup, without friction. This isn't sci-fi, it's already live. In 2024, Huawei's revenue surged to 860 billion yuan, a 22% jump from the previous year, despite sanctions. And nowhere was this rebound more visible than in China's smartphone market. Huawei leapt from 4th place to 2nd, outpacing Apple, whose sales fell by 17%. The West mocked Huawei's comeback attempt. China embraced it. The Mate 60 Pro was the first real turning point. Launched in 2023, it stunned the world. No American chips, no Qualcomm, no TSMC. Instead, a homegrown Kirin 9100 processor, blazing fast and 5G capable, built under the nose of global sanctions. Demand was so overwhelming, shops sold out in days. Some Chinese buyers began calling it the Patriot phone, a device that proved Chinese tech didn't need Western approval to succeed. But it was just the beginning. The Mate 70 series brought features that made Android and iOS look dated. AI agents capable of handling multi-step tasks, booking trips, making reservations, summarizing documents, all by voice. 100-watt fast charging that revived a dead battery in minutes. Foldable displays that felt like they belonged in a sci-fi film. And all of it came with a price tag that undercut premium models from Apple and Samsung. This wasn't about copying anymore. It was about leapfrogging. In May 2025, Huawei dropped its next bombshell, HarmonyOS laptops. The MateBook Fold, with its massive 18-inch OLED screen and no physical keyboard, looked like something out of a design lab, not a store shelf. The MateBook Pro, more traditional in design, marked a declaration of war against Windows, against macOS, against the idea that the world's software must come from the West. Developers took notice. Huawei's app gallery, once considered irrelevant, now hosts over 580 million monthly active users. Major apps like Weibo, Bilibili, and Himalaya have Harmony native versions powered by AI. Huawei even unveiled a new AI-powered dev toolkit, allowing creators to port apps from Android in days, not weeks, while offering better revenue splits than both Apple and Google. And then came the cloud. With its Pangu 5.5 AI models and Cloud Matrix 384 infrastructure, Huawei entered the enterprise and industrial AI race, not as a follower, but as a leader. Hospitals, banks, logistics companies across Asia are now choosing Huawei for one critical reason: their data stays local. For many governments and businesses, that promise, freedom from foreign surveillance, is worth more than flashy features. While Western policymakers framed Huawei as a security threat, many users quietly began asking, is Google any better? That question is reshaping the global conversation around tech sovereignty. Huawei's HarmonyOS now powers millions of devices in Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Thailand. In some categories, it outsells Android, offering better specs, cleaner software, and most importantly, independence. Even education systems are adapting. Universities in Vietnam, Malaysia, and Pakistan are now adding HarmonyOS development to their curricula. Meanwhile, inside the cars rolling out of China's EV factories, another revolution is underway. Huawei has quietly become the intelligence layer behind many of China's most advanced vehicles. Its autonomous driving suite, integrated entertainment systems, and predictive maintenance tools are now in cars built by Seres, Chery, and others. The Ito M9, equipped with Huawei tech, sold 160,000 units in its first year, outselling many global luxury brands. During a recent live demonstration, a Huawei-powered car drove itself through downtown Shenzhen for 45 minutes. No driver intervention, rush hour traffic, buses, pedestrians, all handled with eerie precision, level 4 autonomy, live and legal. The West didn't see it coming. They assumed innovation came from Silicon Valley, but necessity, it turns out, is a far more powerful fuel than comfort. Huawei now invests over $27 billion per year in R&D, more than Amazon, more than Apple, more than many governments. 14,000 people across labs in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and Africa, all building a parallel tech universe. One without Google, without Apple, without Microsoft. And Huawei isn't alone anymore. Xiaomi, Vivo, Oppo, they're all developing operating systems, all investing in their own chips, all betting on a future where American tech giants no longer set the rules. HarmonyOS isn't just an OS, it's a movement that says, if you can't join the club, build your own, and if you build it better, the world will come. We're not just watching a tech race, we're watching the end of a monopoly. And for the first time since the smartphone was born, the future doesn't speak English.
China. 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 China.
300,000 additional AI chips ordered from Taiwan. That's what NVIDIA just placed on TSMC's production line after China's demand for their H20 processors exploded beyond all expectations. But here's what should terrify every American policymaker. China's cybersecurity regulators just hauled NVIDIA executives into emergency meetings, demanding proof that these chips don't contain hidden backdoors for remote tracking and shutdown capabilities. The timing couldn't be more suspicious. Just days before China summoned NVIDIA, US lawmakers were openly discussing embedding tracking mechanisms into every AI chip exported to China. We need to know where these chips end up and have the ability to disable them remotely if necessary, one congressional aide revealed during closed-door sessions. Now China's Cyberspace Administration wants answers, and they're not asking politely. This confrontation represents something far more dangerous than a simple trade dispute. For months, the Biden administration insisted the H20 chip ban was non-negotiable. In July 2025, they reversed course completely. Why? Because China had already won the game before America even realized they were playing. The H20 isn't just any chip. It's NVIDIA's desperate attempt to maintain relevance in the world's largest AI market while complying with crippling U.S. export restrictions. Think of it as the technological equivalent of selling water guns to an army that's already building tanks. The chip delivers roughly 1/4 the performance of NVIDIA's flagship B200 processor, which China can't legally purchase. We don't sell them our best stuff, not our second best stuff, not even our third best. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick admitted with stunning candor, the fourth one down, we want to keep China using it. But that strategy just collapsed spectacularly. Here's the brutal reality Washington doesn't want to acknowledge. While America was busy limiting China's access to advanced chips, Chinese engineers at Huawei were quietly revolutionizing AI processor architecture. Their Ascend series didn't just match the restricted H20's capabilities, it exceeded them. The Ascend 920, unveiled with perfect timing after the latest US restrictions, achieves performance metrics that make the H20 look like yesterday's technology. The numbers tell a devastating story. NVIDIA reported a staggering $5.5 billion charge related to H20 exports to China. That's not revenue. That's the cost of playing geopolitical chess with an opponent who's already thinking 10 moves ahead. Meanwhile, Chinese tech giants Alibaba, Tencent, and ByteDance have been stockpiling both H20s and domestic Ascend chips, creating parallel AI infrastructures that can switch between American and Chinese technology stacks at will.
China and some others already have an equivalent chip. If there is an equivalent chip, then the NVIDIA H20 could be sold. Because I can tell you the one thing that we do not want is a digital Belt and Road springing up around the world.
But that digital Belt and Road is already under construction. While American officials debated export controls, Huawei was signing AI chip agreements with nations across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Countries that once depended entirely on American technology are now weighing Chinese alternatives that come without political strings or shutdown switches. The security implications are staggering. Chinese regulators aren't just concerned about theoretical vulnerabilities. According to the Cyberspace Administration's statement, unnamed American AI experts have confirmed that remote shutdown and tracking technologies in NVIDIA chips have already matured. If true, every H20 chip sold to China could potentially be weaponized as a surveillance device or disabled during a crisis. The market dynamics reveal just how badly America miscalculated. NVIDIA has been forced to price the H20 below Huawei's competing Ascend chips just to maintain market share. Imagine that, an American company undercutting a Chinese competitor in China's own market because their product is perceived as both inferior and potentially compromised. But nuance doesn't win technology wars. While American policymakers crafted elaborate export control frameworks, Chinese engineers were building alternatives that made those controls irrelevant. The most damning evidence of America's strategic failure comes from NVIDIA itself. The company's frantic order for 300,000 additional H20 chips from TSMC isn't a sign of strength, it's desperation. They're racing to sell as many units as possible before Chinese customers complete their transition to domestic alternatives. Every major Chinese AI lab now runs hybrid systems, ready to abandon American chips entirely at the first sign of new restrictions or confirmed security vulnerabilities. This technological humiliation extends beyond chips. It represents the collapse of a decades-old strategy where America controlled global technology standards through a combination of innovation and export controls. That monopoly is shattered. The real shocker came when ByteDance's internal documents leaked, revealing they'd already migrated 40% of their AI training workloads to Huawei's Ascend chips by October 2024. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Performance benchmarks showed the Ascend 910C matching or exceeding the H20 in key machine learning tasks while consuming 15% less power. We're not switching to domestic chips out of patriotism, one ByteDance engineer confessed anonymously. We're switching because they're actually better for our specific use cases. This revelation sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. For years, American tech executives dismissed Chinese semiconductors as inferior copies. Now they're watching their biggest customers voluntarily abandon American products for Chinese alternatives that offer superior performance per dollar. The security confrontation intensified when China's Ministry of State Security issued an unprecedented directive to all government agencies and state-owned enterprises. Conduct immediate audits of all American-made AI chips for potential backdoors and remote access vulnerabilities. Within 72 hours, over 500 organizations reported suspicious network traffic patterns originating from NVIDIA processors. Once you plant the seed of doubt about hardware security, it grows like cancer, warns Marcus Chen, former chief technology officer at a major Chinese cloud provider. Every unexplained packet, every firmware update, every performance anomaly becomes evidence of American surveillance. How can you build national AI infrastructure on chips you fundamentally don't trust? The timing of America's H-20 policy reversal reveals the depth of strategic miscalculation. Internal Commerce Department emails, obtained through Freedom of Information requests, show officials believed they had at least 3 more years before Chinese alternatives became competitive. They were wrong by 30 months. By the time they lifted restrictions, Huawei had already secured design wins at 7 of China's 10 largest AI companies. The financial bloodbath tells its own story. NVIDIA's stock price plummeted 23% in the 6 weeks following China's security investigation announcement. Meanwhile, Huawei's valuation surged past $500 billion, making it more valuable than Intel and AMD combined. The human cost of this technological divorce is staggering. Thousands of Chinese engineers who trained at American universities and worked at Silicon Valley companies are returning home to build China's semiconductor independence. Dr. Li Xiaoming, who spent 15 years at NVIDIA before joining Huawei's Ascend team, captures the mood. We learned from the best, and now we're building something better, not out of nationalism, but out of necessity. When America treats us as adversaries rather than partners, what choice do we have? The ripple effects are reshaping global technology alliances. India, originally committed to American AI partnerships, quietly signed agreements with Huawei for Ascend chip supplies. Saudi Arabia's NEOM Smart City project, initially designed around NVIDIA architecture, added Huawei as a backup supplier. Code for primary supplier once political winds shift. As one Chinese AI researcher put it during a recent conference in Shenzhen, "For decades, we built our digital future on American foundations. We trusted their chips, their software, their standards. That trust is gone, and with it goes America's most powerful tool of influence." They didn't lose this war on the battlefield of technology. They lost it the moment they admitted they wanted to install kill switches in the chips they sold us.
Huawei is very dangerous.
Rarely does a country go to war with a private company.
We have met the enemy, and it is Huawei.
We're not going to do business with Huawei.
Huawei represents a national security risk.
But is this really about Huawei, or is it something bigger than that?
The day Huawei sold 160,000 smartphones in just 60 seconds wasn't just a sales record. It was the moment Silicon Valley realized the tech world's center of gravity had shifted. While Google executives were celebrating another quarter of Android dominance, a seismic transformation was already underway in Shenzhen's gleaming towers, where engineers were writing code that would soon power 1 billion devices without a single line of American software. The numbers tell a story that should terrify any tech monopolist. Huawei's revenue had surged 22% to reach 860 billion yuan, that's $118 billion, despite facing the harshest technology sanctions ever imposed on a private company. Even more shocking? They'd captured 16% of China's smartphone market, pushing Apple into third place and building momentum that would only accelerate. But this isn't about market share percentages or quarterly earnings. This is about watching a company transform from near-death to technological independence in less than 5 years, creating an entirely new digital ecosystem that's making Google's services obsolete for hundreds of millions of users. Richard Yu stood before a packed auditorium, holding up the Mate 70, a device that looked like any other premium smartphone until you realized what was missing. No Google Play Store, no Android framework, no American technology whatsoever. "Today marks our declaration of technological sovereignty," he announced as the crowd erupted. The flagship device ran HarmonyOS Next, an operating system built from scratch, line by line, function by function, to prove that the era of American tech hegemony could actually end. The journey to this moment began in May 2019, when the US government's entity list became Huawei's death sentence, or so everyone thought. Overnight, the company lost access to Google Mobile Services, the Android ecosystem that powers virtually every non-Apple smartphone on Earth. Industry analysts predicted Huawei would hemorrhage market share, lose consumer trust, and eventually retreat to making network equipment in obscurity. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Deep in Huawei's research facilities, thousands of engineers began working around the clock on what seemed impossible, creating a complete alternative to Google's ecosystem. Not just an operating system, but an entire digital universe of services, apps, and capabilities that could match or exceed what Google had spent 2 decades building. When you're backed into a corner, you have 2 choices. You can surrender, or you can innovate your way out. We chose innovation. The scale of this undertaking cannot be overstated. Google's Android ecosystem represents millions of hours of development, billions in investment, and partnerships with virtually every tech company on the planet. Huawei had to replicate all of this while under sanctions, without access to American technology, and with the clock ticking as consumers grew impatient. By 2025, the impossible had become reality. HarmonyOS wasn't just surviving, it was thriving on over 900 million devices. The Mate X6 and revolutionary Mate XT trifold smartphones showcased at Barcelona's Mobile World Congress proved Huawei could still innovate at the bleeding edge. But the real victory was deeper than folding screens or camera specifications. Consider the AI chip breakthrough that nobody saw coming. In April 2025, Huawei began mass shipments of its 910C AI processor to Chinese customers desperate for alternatives to NVIDIA's restricted chips. This wasn't just a semiconductor, it was proof that the entire global tech supply chain could be reimagined without American components. The West assumed we would crumble without their technology, reflected Eric Xu, Huawei's rotating chairman, during a rare moment of candor at the Mobile World Congress Shanghai. They forgot that necessity is the mother of invention, and we had 200,000 of the world's brightest minds focused on a single necessity, survival. The transformation extended far beyond smartphones. Huawei's cloud services division, once an afterthought compared to Amazon and Google, exploded to $10 billion in revenue. Their 5G advanced networks began powering smart cities across Asia. Even their consumer devices, from watches that monitor health metrics with hospital-grade precision to cars that drive themselves through Shanghai traffic, showcased a level of integration that made Apple's ecosystem look fragmented. But perhaps the most remarkable achievement was Pedal Search, Huawei's answer to Google's crown jewel. Handling millions of queries daily across 50 languages, it proved that Google's search monopoly wasn't unbreakable. In markets where Google had been absent or restricted, Pedal Search didn't just fill the void, it created new possibilities, understanding local contexts and needs in ways Google's one-size-fits-all approach never could. The implications rippled across the industry. Suddenly, other Chinese tech giants began questioning their dependence on American platforms. Xiaomi accelerated its own OS development. Oppo and Vivo started building alternative app stores. Even Samsung, despite its cozy relationship with Google, began hedging its bets with expanded ties in development. What Huawei proved wasn't just that you could survive without Google, noted a Beijing-based technology analyst who requested anonymity. They proved you could thrive. That message resonated from Bangalore to São Paulo, wherever companies felt constrained by Silicon Valley's stranglehold on digital infrastructure. The momentum became undeniable when July 2025's market data showed Huawei had reclaimed the top spot in China's smartphone market with an 18% share. This wasn't just a comeback. It was a complete reimagining of what a technology company could be when forced to innovate without boundaries. The real shock came when independent benchmarks revealed HarmonyOS Next wasn't just matching Android's performance, it was exceeding it. Boot times were 30% faster, battery life extended by hours, app launches felt instantaneous. But the technical superiority told only part of the story. What truly rattled Silicon Valley was watching Huawei transform every sanction into an innovation catalyst. Take the app ecosystem challenge. When Google Play Store vanished, pessimists predicted a ghost town of empty digital shelves. Instead, Huawei's app gallery exploded to 580 million active users by late 2024, with developers racing to capture a market hungry for alternatives. The company invested $1 billion in developer incentives, creating overnight millionaires from Beijing to Mumbai who built apps specifically optimized for HarmonyOS's unique capabilities. We're seeing something unprecedented, observed Dr. Chen Wei, a technology strategist at Tsinghua University. For the first time in modern tech history, a non-American ecosystem is setting the pace for innovation. Developers aren't porting Android apps anymore. They're building HarmonyOS-first experiences that Android struggles to replicate. The evidence was everywhere. China's automotive giants began embedding HarmonyOS into their vehicles, creating seamless experiences where your car recognized your morning routine, adjusted seats and mirrors automatically, and queued up your podcast precisely where you'd left off at home. Smart home manufacturers discovered HarmonyOS could connect devices with latencies measured in microseconds, not milliseconds, enabling orchestrations of household technology that felt almost telepathic. But Washington's response revealed the depth of American anxiety. The Commerce Department expanded restrictions, trying to prevent any chip manufacturer using American equipment from supplying Huawei. The result? China poured $150 billion into domestic semiconductor production, creating an entire parallel supply chain that would have taken decades to develop under normal circumstances. By March 2025, Huawei's Kirin 9100 processor, manufactured entirely within China, powered devices that matched or exceeded Qualcomm's latest offerings. The chip shortage that had crippled global electronics production became China's opportunity to leapfrog generations of technology. Where American companies had grown comfortable with incremental improvements, Chinese firms raced toward quantum leaps. Sanctions were supposed to be our death sentence, a Huawei executive confided during an industry conference. Instead, they became our rocket fuel. Every restriction forced us to find not just alternatives, but better solutions. We stopped asking, how can we copy, and started asking, how can we revolutionize? The revolution extended into artificial intelligence, where Huawei's Pangu models began powering everything from medical diagnoses to weather prediction with accuracy that stunned international observers. While ChatGPT captured headlines, Pangu quietly became the AI backbone for thousands of Chinese enterprises, processing information in ways specifically tailored to Asian languages and cultural contexts that Western models struggled to understand. Financial markets took notice. Despite being shut out of American exchanges, Huawei's bonds became hot commodities in Asian markets. Institutional investors who had written off the company in 2019 scrambled to gain exposure to what many called the most remarkable corporate transformation in history. The company's valuation estimates soared past $300 billion. Though without public trading, the true number remained speculation. The ecosystem effects multiplied exponentially. Every Huawei phone sold meant another user for pedal maps, competing directly with Google Maps in navigation accuracy while offering features like real-time parking availability and integrated payment systems. Huawei Music struck exclusive deals with Asian artists, creating a cultural moat that Spotify couldn't breach. Even Huawei's cloud storage solution, mocked initially as a Dropbox clone, evolved into a sophisticated platform that predicted your file needs before you knew them yourself. We're witnessing the birth of a parallel digital universe, explained Sarah Chen, a venture capitalist who had pivoted her entire portfolio toward HarmonyOS-compatible startups. It's not just about replacing American services anymore, it's about imagining entirely new categories of digital experiences that the Western tech paradigm never considered. The proof arrived during China's Golden Week holiday in October 2024, when Huawei's payment system processed 2.7 billion transactions without a single major outage. The seamless integration between HarmonyOS devices meant paying for street food with your watch, splitting dinner bills through your car's display, and managing investments via your television, all secured by encryption standards that made even skeptical security experts nod in approval.